Hi, this is Curtis. Welcome to Innovate Fitness. How can I help you? Every time that you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So if you say yes to something, you're saying no to that hour that you're spending with your kids. It really changes your mindset on what you commit to and what you don't. We always say that people don't come to to work with a personal trainer to achieve weight loss goals. They come there to boost their self-esteem or self-confidence.
Hello and welcome to Gym World Worldwide. We have a very special episode for you today. We are bringing on Curtis Christopherson of Innovative Fitness. He is a personal training gym mogul. We're going to hear his story of scaling from 1 to now 23 locations, doing over 7 figures on average per unit, per location, hiring 200 to 250 trainers system wide. And we're actually co-publishing this episode with Two Brain Radio. And so we want to get this in the hands of a lot of gym owners because we think Curtis has a lot to teach y'all. So how's it going? Good morning. What do you got to say to the gym world?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for hosting me. And it's time to get going today, like every day.
All right, let's rock and roll. So tell me, what is Innovative Fitness?
Yeah, Innovative Fitness is exclusively a one-on-one personal training model and gym chain. So we have, now 23, up to 23 locations, boutique models. So about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. And we exclusively deliver one-on-one and two-on-one services.
That, this is like how long you were like the original founder of this, right? It's kind of, it's got kind of an interesting story behind it, right?
You know what? Uniquely enough, I'm actually not. In 1997, our two founders, Matt Young and Jeff Sharp, founded it out of university. They were about 11 years my senior. Our first location opened up in 99, and I was like the 7th employee. And after, in 2002, when I joined the company, we had 1 location opening up 2. And they looked at me and they said, "Hey, we're going to lose you. Do you want to be, part owner of this?" And so I opened up our second location. I owned our third. There was 3 of us. We each owned 1 each. And then I kind of joined the ownership group right then and there. And in 2017, I actually bought out the 2 founders and my partners.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because I remember you telling a story on a different podcast where you took out a loan. It was like you were 22 years old and took out $400,000 to open the first location. So it was actually like the third of this chain, or was that a separate thing?
No, yeah, it was our third location. So we had just opened 1 each, and I was 22 going on 23, took a $450,000 line of credit out to expand our brand and our business. And, and I did that. And then, the rest is history. So we combined forces. I led the organization from, 2003 all the way up until today.
Wow. So you've been in the game 25-ish years now?
Yeah. I mean, the brand and the business has been around for close to 25. I've been, at the helm for the last 20 to 22. And it's been quite the journey, that's for sure.
And I'm guessing you've made no mistakes along the way. You just nailed it right out the gate and instantly scaled up.
Yeah, none. Yeah, overnight success, super easy, straight line, and no bird's nest along the way.
Awesome. All right, that's the end of the podcast, guys. I hope you got a lot out of it. No. So let's get into a little bit about the service, the packaging, and pricing. Because my understanding is you really only offer like one-on-one, one-on-two. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the last 25 years, that's ultimately what we've provided. Strictly in person, one-on-one, one-on-two. Someone comes in, it's an employee-based model. So, they have a consistent experience and service, and we've done that up until now. I think COVID disrupted a little bit, and we're looking and evaluating really alternative services such as, not only virtual training, but online coaching as well. But 97% of our revenue is strictly from that one-on-one, one-on-two service delivery.
And so how do you package and price your stuff?
So it's not a la carte. We have strictly packages based on credits, prepayment credits, and the client either pays on a monthly, 3 months, or 6 month basis. We have corporate packages as well, so 75, 150, and 300 session packages. But predominantly, our average customer, they're coming in, they're paying monthly, and our average customer between 2 and 3 days a week.
Okay, and what's kind of like a baseline for the session rate?
Yeah, it's about $100. It depends on geographically where we're located. Some locations can justify a higher price point, but for the most part, I think it's just under $100 is our average price point per hour.
So that puts us somewhere in the neighborhood of $800 to $1,200 a month is what you're looking at for an average member.
Yeah, correct. I think our average rate now, rate across the board is $825, give or take, the average spend per month per customer.
And so you said you have about 23 locations. What is kind of like at maturity, what does a unit look like? Like how many members do you have? How many staff members? Kind of run us through like the ideal economics at maturity for one of these.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say that from a maturity perspective, it takes about 6 to 7 years to get up to the numbers I'm going to talk about. The average location will do about 450 billable hours a week. So we're talking, 200 active clients at 2.5 times a week. So between 200 and 250 active clients, we would have anywhere between 12 to 16 full-time trainers. And we're doing, anywhere in the ballpark of 1.3 to 1.5 million in revenue per location.
Awesome. Just taking notes here. And so 1.3 to 1.5, you said average unit size is around 5,000 square feet. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, just shy of that. I would say, our older locations are a little bit smaller. They were in the range of 3,500 to 42. And now we're looking at, just based on space and optimizing that, like it's around 4,800 to 5,000.
And what other models run something like this? Because I've heard of personal training studios doing these kind of numbers, not on this type of scale, but a lot of times it seems like they run out of a smaller footprint. This seems like a larger gym. So what was the rhyme or reason behind that square footage?
Yeah, right from the beginning, we were always about the premium side of the market. So we have, beautifully designed amenity spaces. So for all the clients, shower facilities, which takes up quite a bit. And then typically we have a good sized staff room for the staff so that they actually have, the ability to do the work, online programming, coaching, and stay connected as a team. The training floor space is about anywhere between 2,000 and 2,500. And the remaining is, divided up between shower facilities, front desk, reception area, and then the staff room and staff facilities as well.
And you're primarily located in in tier 1 cities, right? That seems to be if I'm looking through the location list here.
Yeah, we usually anchor in tier 1. So Vancouver's where our home is and where we started. And we usually expand like a hub and spoke model where we'll plant the brand and the business, not necessarily in downtown or the center, but we're in Vancouver and then we're in 8 suburbs around Vancouver. So the suburb markets that are anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes away from downtown, do extremely well for our business.
So I'm guessing your bread and butter is probably like 45-year-old mom or 45-year-old working dad. Is that about right?
Yeah, pretty close. I think our average client is around 48 or 49 years old. Typically CEO, executive, stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, and 50-50 split. Every location's slightly different, but on average, it's about a 50-50 split between male and female.
It seems the price point sounds like relatively reasonable for higher end personal training. So is $100 a session usually like top end of the market in most of these places? Like I know there's a lot of disposable income floating around in Vancouver, Toronto, some of these tier 1 Canadian cities and the burbs.
Yeah, I would say it's a very competitive price point. I wouldn't say it's the top end, but I also wouldn't say that, I think we're in Vancouver, unfortunately, there's a significant amount of competition. And I would say some of that competition is actually due to our, longevity in the space. We've been in the space for the last 25 years, and we've had, especially early on, we had a lot of ex-employees leave to only open up a very competitive or similar model. We don't get that as much anymore, just because the systems, the processes, and the opportunity that we've created. But the competition in Vancouver is, I've been to LA, New York, and other high-end geographical locations, and I would say it's probably one of the most competitive markets in North America. And so that just keeps our price point where it is. When in Toronto, our average price point is $140 an hour. And, you're going to see obviously one-on-one services scale to 200, 250 in some areas.
Wow. Yeah. I was looking at a place I'm in Jupiter, Florida. And so that's where like a lot of the pro golfers are. And I was looking at a place, and the session rate they're charging is between $250 and $300. That was one of the spicier ones I've ever seen. Yeah. Baseline membership was $2,200. It's like, wow. There's a different game being played. Yeah. So we talked these price points, I'm assuming, are one-on-one. 1 and 2, I'm assuming, is like me and a buddy, or me and my wife want to go in and train with you. Like, how does that work? Is there a discount, or is it $200 for the session? How do you package that?
No, it's a slight discount. So it's probably, about 60% per person, that is, of the actual price point. So instead of $100 an hour, it's in the range of $65 to $75 per person. And, depending on the discounts and the packages that people pay, so it's a discounting fee, and it allows, obviously, just like small group does, it allows the price point to be more achievable and open up your adjustable market.
Yep. And so we're talking 250 at maturity, 200 to 250 clients at maturity. You said 6 to 7 years, which is a longer ramp up than we hear from a lot of other people. So either, sounds very realistic and believable. How do you get bodies in the door? What's your marketing?
You know what? We spend 1% on digital like 1% of our revenue is dedicated for digital advertising, anything from search or digital ads. That being said, 90% of our business comes from word of mouth. And because of our strong retention, I think our average right now, pre-COVID anyways, was 7.2 years. So we don't need, a significant amount of new clients per month or per year. We have a retention rate of, anywhere between 90 and 92% typically. And so we'll have 8% attrition just based on travel, finances, moving, or just, transitioning out of the business in terms of, they're done with the services. So, for us, 99% is word of mouth. Brand awareness obviously plays a big part of that, but, it's all about experiences. And if we can, create great experiences and great results, then, the rest of the magic happens by itself.
Are you saying that 90 to 92, is that monthly or annual?
Yeah. So we have about, give or take, like I say, between 8 to 12% attrition on an annual basis.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. Do you find that that's a result of personal training? Like, I would have guessed the opposite, that like a personal training focused gym would probably, I feel like once people hit a certain threshold, it turns into more of a therapy relationship and less of like a training one. But I just may be coming from a group training background. So maybe I'm just, you got to shatter my belief here.
Yeah, you know what? I think the reality is that we've been pretty strong at only building great rapport and relationships and building trust with our clientele, but creating community, especially before COVID, before that disruption happened. But, when you create community, create connection, create trust, and really integrate the client within the experience, that's going to obviously lengthen the longevity of a client and increase retention. Another thing that we've done extremely well is we focus less on the weight and focus more on, challenges and really reestablishing goals along the way. I mean, I think it's inevitable if you're in the fitness industry, if you only focus on the scale, there's only so much weight you can lose. And if you don't re-engage with the clientele or the customer on setting new goals after they've achieved their body weight goals, as an example, or their any kind of body composition goals, it's inevitable that they're going to move on. And so for us, we've always instilled this opportunity to re-engage in some other lifestyle goal, whether it's running around the block pain-free, hiking a mountain, running a marathon, cycling across, wine country, whatever it might be, and engage them into a lifestyle so that it not only is it encourage them to keep on going, but it also, from a business model perspective, it helps us retain our clientele.
I'm coming off of a back surgery, so I'm on the jogging around the block pain free. That's a 2023 goal. So
Nice.
we'll see how that goes. So you said community building and one-on-one training. So in my head, those don't go together. You mentioned like keeping people focused on some type of goal. What other things are you doing to make these people engage, get them to stick around, keep paying for over 7 years?
Yeah, I would say one of our, probably biggest strategies to do that and incorporate them into the brand versus the individual person is we have something called the rotational training system, which we've done for 23 of the last 25 years, where when you come in as a client, you don't work with one trainer. So typically if a client is training 3 days a week, they're twice with one trainer and one time with another trainer. If they're twice a week, they're one-on-one, meaning one time with one trainer, one time with another trainer. So we call it a consistent variety. And that consistent variety, not only provides, a little bit of variety, obviously through the training week, but it also provides a little bit of stickiness within the business model because the relationship is developed, with multiple people versus just one. So if there's any transition with that trainer, they go off and either, move out of the industry or go on their own. There's a connection and tie to the brand through the other relationships that exist. And so that's one thing that we do for sure. And then other things like just community involvement. So we'll, not only do we have, group events and experiences that we'll create, but, this destination travel, which we've been known for probably the last 20 years, is that we take people to Machu Picchu, Kilimanjaro, cycling the Tour de France. We've taken people all around the world and engaged them into lifestyle experiences. And when they go and do that, they're traveling with like-minded people. They meet people that, they belong to the same, community, which is, innovative fitness. And, they get to know each other. And that provides a little bit more stickiness as well.
Whoa, I didn't know. So where would I go to find that on your site, or is this a secret page? The travel. Do you market this, or is this I got to be in the club to know about it?
No. We market a little bit. It is mostly internal, but it's funny you mentioned that because our site, I'd say probably 12 years ago, you'd go to our website and you'd think we were an adventure travel company versus a personal training company. So, people really got confused what we did. And so it is a vehicle and a strategy to engage people, create community, and create a level of challenge for our customers to embark on lifestyle specific health goals and take them away of thinking that full, holistic wellness isn't just about the scale.
Interesting. Yeah. Cause we've been talking a lot about, outdoor experiences, getting your gym members outside of the gym as a retention tool. But this is the first time I hear of someone doing like big life things within the gym. And I'm guessing with such a network, you can probably do a lot of them, right? Like with 23 gyms, you can run one of these things like every month or two, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like we do probably one a month and they're significant, when, I look back probably 20 years ago and how this started is that as we developed our model and developed our philosophies and knew it wasn't going to be about the scale and it was about, challenging people outside their comfort zone, and trying to achieve more than just what they saw, below their feet, is that when we challenged people to go do a marathon, our clientele told us, I've always, or challenge them to do a run per se, they'd be like, oh, I've always wanted to do a marathon before I'm 50. Like they were setting bucket list goals before the bucket list movie was even existing. And so what happened is that we said, okay, well, why don't we do Vancouver Marathon? And they obviously could afford, the international travel. And they said, well, if I'm going to do a marathon, I want to do, the Tokyo Marathon or the London Marathon or, something like that. And that was a good sign for us that it's like, okay, instead of thinking small, why don't we think big? people have aspirations and goals, but they hesitate to actually check them off the list because they don't feel they're adequately prepared. They're not healthy enough. They're not focused. They don't have enough support. They don't know where to start. And so we essentially help them achieve their goals through physical fitness. And, we've taken, even myself personally, I've been lucky enough for the last 20 years to travel around the world just because of the nature of our business.
And is this something where you coordinate all the details and charge the members and make a little bit of money off of it? Or is it just like, hey, we're going to go run at Tokyo, book at this hotel, and like it's an at-cost thing?
No, we coordinate everything. It's not a massive revenue generating part of the business, but what we do is we factor in for every 10 clients that go, one of our trainers that's leading the event, go at no cost. And so, for us, it's a retention tool for our training staff as well. They get to experience the world. They get to check things off their bucket list. And typically, there's a lot of shared bucket list items. And, that's another thing we did. In 2003, I created a While I'm Alive list. It's a little bit what I'm known for. This is before the bucket list movie came out as well. And I sat down, created a While I'm Alive list. At the time, it was actually everything I want to do before I die. And I switched it, made it a little more positive. And I created a list of everything, like all the physical accomplishments, the sightseeing, and the world travel that I want to accomplish before I die. And, that turned into, really looking at, what events we want to do, because I knew that if I had these on my list, other people did too. And so a lot of our events came from that.
Yeah, I saw on your site, it looked like you were pretty deliberate about planning out how you spend your time, who you spend your time with, and what you actually accomplish. So, I just discovered this guy who's on a podcast. I like it. His name's Jesse Itzler. Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah. Yep.
I was going to say, like, when I was reading through some of your stuff and going through, I was like, I was like, you guys have a very similar vibe. So very, very cool. People are gonna love that. That is a very fresh idea in our corner of the world, and it's something where the newsletter I'm writing this week, it's about a guy who's doing really well catering to Gen Z, and it seems like something in that demographic really wants stuff like that, and not a lot of people are offering it. So it's very cool to see that.
I think COVID had just accelerated the desire to be, involved in community as well. Like, when you get it stripped away for 2.5 years in some cases. I think the desire for connection, community, and just grounding in these experiences, I think it made it more valuable. And so, we saw massive value before the pandemic, but now post-pandemic, I think you're going to see people wanting to explore their life. And there's a book called that I love right now, Die with Zero. And it just, it makes you think, like, what are we working so hard for? And from a health and wellness perspective as well, it's funny. People hesitate. The consumer hesitates to spend a lot of money on their wellness, yet they'll spend money on, I don't know, the gardener, eating out, any outsourced services, they'll spend money on to save time and be efficient. Yet, usually the last thing that they spend money on is actually, outsourcing their health. And when it comes down to it, they'll spend endless amount of money to extend their life by 2 weeks at the very end of the day. And so, why not spend money on travel, community, connection, adventure, let alone health now, so that you can, enjoy, the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your life.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard as someone who works from home and has family at home. Like I like leave my house maybe like once or twice a week, and it's not to like interface with other people. So it's like, if you don't live in my neighborhood, like chances are I don't see you. So I understand that. And it's definitely something I've been thinking a lot about myself. You've mentioned COVID a few times, and rumor on the street is you have an interesting COVID story. I mean, every gym owner got kicked in the teeth, but it sounds like you got a couple extra kicks in the teeth. So rumor on the street was you had about 13 locations doing around 17 million, and you had just taken out a big old bank loan to expand. And what happened?
Yeah, it's a story I've told a couple times, and maybe more than a couple. And it was, we're not quite through the war story, but we're out on the other side, that's for sure. And I look at in 2019, I remember looking at my wife going, we finally made it after 22 years in the business. We were expanding, we were doing well, all of our locations were thriving. And in January of 2020, we worked with the banks, and if anybody knows the banking industry, especially in Canada, actually, they don't like to finance our industry. So, being the second highest failing industry in North America, one being restaurants, two being fitness, it's really difficult to get expansion capital. And after, the length of time that we've been in the industry and the success we've had, the banks were knocking on our doors in January of 2020. And, I closed out, a $4 million expansion credit line, to expand, our locations actually down to the US. And so we closed that mid-February or end of February. And I remember getting on a plane, I think it was, don't quote me, but I think it was like February 18th or 20th. And I went from Vancouver to Toronto, Toronto to New York to San Diego to LA to Seattle, and Seattle back to Vancouver. And in that process, I had signed a couple leases. I signed 2 offer to purchases. So we were going to buy 2 boutique gyms, and I had signed 2 significant leases, especially one in Toronto on Bloor and Yonge Street. And I came back, with the first week of March, and I knew something was up, especially going through New York. Like, you knew something was going down. And sure enough, on March 15th, we shut our doors. And I remember looking at myself going, not only did I take all this risk, we were just there. Like, we were, after 20 years plus in the industry and making it as far as we did, and then getting the capital to expand, we went from the top of the world to figuring out what the hell we were going to do, and we had to navigate 13 locations. Lucky enough, with our expansion plans to the US, we also had the desire to build our own software. So 7 months prior to the pandemic, we were developing our own software because we felt like the industry needed something that didn't exist. You had MindBody on one side, and you had Trainerize on the other, 2, great software solutions, but didn't really solve the need for a one-on-one experience, scheduling, billing, invoicing. At that time, Trainerize was predominantly an engagement tool and a programming tool. And so we started developing our software that we needed to expand successfully down in the US. And we had enough code and enough of it put together that we were able to accelerate the go-to-market. And we brought it to market, attached a virtual streaming solution to it, and deployed that within 2 weeks. And so March 15th, we closed our doors. And March 30th, we deployed over 200 trainers to deliver high-end personalized virtual training services, all paid to our clients. And we didn't lay off, we laid off one person who was in charge of expansion. We weren't expanding brick and mortar, and we weren't designing any new spaces. And so, and that's how it, that was the first couple of weeks of COVID. And that quick pivot, that fast, quick go-to-market, just enabled us to lay down a pathway for us for the future. And looking back, it saved us for sure.
So you pivoted to the software and moved your members online, and were you able to retain a decent amount? Or, we talked to some gym owners. We had another guy on here, Matt Wilbur. He was a Fit Body boot camp franchise with a ton of locations, and similar thing. He had just like closed on this $3 million loan and bought a bunch of them. But like his was just like all large group training. So it's just like 70% of his business, poof, gone. With personal training, I'm imagining you probably were able to hold on to a little more revenue than that.
Yeah, I mean, we were still down quite a bit, but it enabled us to stay engaged with the ones that wanted to do the virtual training, and I would say that we were down, 50, 60% for sure. That being said, it allowed us to stay connected, and that it allowed more than anything, it allowed us to keep our employees employed. We could pay them, keep them in the community, so that when we were ready to open up, we actually had the employees deliver the services. So out of anything, I'd say that was the biggest saving grace. And, if we saved and kept 50 to 60% of our community engaged with virtual training, then the other 40 we had to work hard for to get back when we were open. And some of them, they just took a 2-month break or a 3-month break from a hiatus perspective. And, we got a decent percentage of those back. But, I look back and I think it was a smart move. You never know, right? You can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect them looking back. And I think we consecutively made good choices along the way. We made a lot of mistakes, but I think for the most part, we made some small incremental good choices that just compounded and allowed us to be where we are at today.
It's gnarly, man. I also pivoted to software, but I did it at 2019 when I sold my gym. So I got just lucky. I was in New York, so where it was the worst, and so I dodged an absolute bullet
crystal
with that
ball.
one.
I guess you had, right? Crystal ball.
If it was a crystal, people say that, but if it was a crystal ball, I would be a lot richer. I probably would have put some of that money into some stocks in the bottom of 2020. So didn't have that much foresight. So you mentioned something interesting in your model when we were talking about community. So you said in a lot of personal training models, it is like the client is owned by a trainer. Mm-hmm. You said that you swap it up. So 3 times a week, I could potentially see 3 different trainers, which is interesting, right? Because when I think of like, what are the threats of opening a personal training studio? One of them you mentioned, it is like, everybody falls in love with your star trainer and then they leave and take half your business with you. So was this a process born out of like protecting your core business, or was this something that just made life a little better so you could like block schedule trainers?
Yeah, you know what? It happened. We implemented this a long time ago, like 22, 23 years ago. And it was implemented, knowing that, people would be connected to the brand versus the person. So yes, out of protection for sure. But what we found is that when people actually have that consistent variety and they actually love it, for the most part, 90% of them actually enjoy that slight variety. We all know if you've trained at all, when you train someone, even from a trainer perspective, when you train someone 3 days a week, it gets a little monotonous, mundane, and you got to do that consistently day in and day out. So having a slight variety changes it up, keeps people on their toes, and it provides a variety to the customer and the client. That being said, we never do more than 2. So, if someone's 3 days a week, it's twice with one trainer, one time with another. We think that, having 3 or 4 trainers, depending on how many times a week you come, is too much variety. There isn't consistency with the programming. There's not consistency with, understanding and staying intentional about the goals. But having, that slight variety and having 2 coaches is new perspective, new way of doing things, keep things, fresh and everybody sticks to the same program. So, there's always a consistent program that everybody follows.
Oh, so like all 200 to 250 clients are doing the same thing?
No. So, what I'm saying is that if you work with 2 coaches, they're on the same path. Like they're, basically you'll have a delegated master coach or lead coach, and that lead coach will create the programming for that client. And that client and both coaches in this case will follow that program to a T. So it's not, you're not, from a client perspective, you don't have a trainer, like 2 trainers fighting over what they're doing and have different programming for you. And, there's one program for the client that's customized to them. It's personalized to them. But the lead coach creates that program and the other coach follows that program, as close as possible.
Got it. And so this probably gives leeway as well if, the lead trainer gets sick or something like that, there's always just like someone available. So
yeah, sick, moving away, you name it. There's like, whatever, on vacation, it provides a lot of opportunities. So, trainers can leave and go on vacation, or if they're sick, the client isn't, not booking in for 2 weeks because they're used to that variety. And because of that, once again, it's not only are they used to the variety, they're also open and willing to work with some other trainers, if someone goes away for 2 weeks or even longer. So yeah, it's great that way. By no means like, is it bulletproof? No. At the end of the day, certain trainers demand a certain level of presence and they build trust extremely well. And if they stay in the industry, there's still risk from a business model perspective, but that risk is heavily reduced.
So it sounds like at the point of sale that every client has a lead coach and the lead coach is responsible for the actual programming, right? Is that what
Correct.
I'm hearing? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And then at that point, that's when you assign the backup or the secondary.
Correct. Yes.
Got it. Awesome. So yeah, let's move into the operations piece, because it sounds like you like details, you like systems, you're into it. I don't think you get to 23 studios on a personal training model if you're not a little weird about that stuff, borderline obsessive,
Yeah.
So how do you hire? That's the first piece. Like, that was the first question I had with this thing. I was like, this sounds hard, getting that many trainers and coaches to offer a consistent service across all these different locations. Like, what's the secret sauce here?
Yeah, I'd say that experience is actually like probably one of the lower characteristics that we look for. Our big thing is, first off, are they certified? Are they educated, to be in the field? That's number one. They have to have a certain level of certification or education. And then we look at and evaluate them as an individual. So, are they, team oriented? Have they played team sports, previously? Are they, what's their desire to be a student of the game? Not only do they have post-secondary education or some level of certification, but, are they constant learning? Like, are they learners by heart? So team, attitude, aptitude, are they student of the game? And then, experience probably, is probably, fifth on the list. I would say also, do they lead by example? Do they walk the talk? You don't go to a dentist with bad teeth. You don't have to be blessed with great genetics, but do you challenge yourself personally and physically like you would expect of your own clients? And so when we look at those characteristics, whether it's, a team background, someone that's seeking out knowledge and experience, someone that, walks the talk, those are the characteristics we look for. And, if they have experience, that's just a bonus. But we believe with our system structure and onboarding process that we can help, apply people that have significant education in the field and teach them how to be and ramp them up to be a great trainer pretty quickly. So, like I say, that's what we're looking for. We also look for, generally speaking, people that are, 23 to 27 years old. There's exceptions, sometimes, you have some, a little bit older veterans in the field that want to work with us. And that's always great. That perspective for the clients when you're working with an older trainer, I think they like that. But regardless, when we hire someone that's fresh out of university, it's, we can help mold them, teach them, educate them, and really onboard them successfully.
And so it says here, I was going to ask, because you said you're about 14 to 16 full-time per location at maturity. So this is something where it's not like a salary gig, right? Everyone's paid by the session, but it looks like you offer some benefits and stuff. So maybe talk a little bit about how you comp, because I'm sure that is going to be a question in a lot of gym owners' minds here.
Yeah, for sure. So everybody's paid on the hourly basis. We only have 2 salaried employees per location, and those salaried employees are typically our manager, our studio manager, as well as our front desk administrator. So we have our front desk administrator as well. And what we do is, as we pay people, they get an hourly rate for the training sessions that they deliver on. But we ensure that they have a minimum of 25 hours to begin with. For us, that's kind of our sweet spot. If someone is training less than 25 hours and get paid for less than 25 hours, we know our likelihood of retaining them is going to be low. So our goal is to build the schedule up to have a minimum of 25 hours when we onboard someone. And then because of our team environment and how we structure the scheduling, we also provide, a strong scheduling platform where people aren't burning out because they're, doing the mornings and the nights and split shifts. So we have 2 shifts, typically. Typically people will train from 6 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's one shift. And then, as our morning shift goes on break or lunch, our afternoon and evening shift starts. So they start at 11 and they go 11 to 8. So we have a 6 to 3 shift, 11 to 8. There's obviously exceptions to that, but that's typically how we structure it. And, most of our trainers will train between 32 and 34 hours a week. They get paid hourly, but we include additional medical benefits. So, we contribute to their medical, their benefit plan. So extended medical, we cover their insurance. Yeah, and we have some other, unique benefits as an employee working for our company.
So basically 25 is kind of what you consider the threshold for full time. And then how long does it take to ramp? Because I heard you had a very robust training program.
Yeah. So that's shifted over the years too. I remember, let's talk about the onboarding process. We used to believe that someone had to actually, go to the tryouts to make the team. And so we used to take people into a 2 to 3 week onboarding orientation process. And it didn't guarantee that you got a job with us. Employment laws changed quite a bit, so we can't do that anymore. But what we do is we have a 2.5 week orientation process after, an extensive interview process. And once people are brought into the orientation, they're engaged, not only through our, values of a company or as an organization, but also our philosophies, as well as, really the tactical and technical element of training, and how do we actually provide a level of knowledge or essentially package their knowledge they already have and teach them how to apply it. And so we want to, a consistent experience, not only from a service perspective, but also from a training perspective. And they go through that process for about 2.5 weeks. Then they'll start training. And they'll start training between 20 and 25 hours. As I mentioned, that's our target goal. And it usually takes about 2.5 to 3 months to get up to that 35 hours of what people want. I mean, I think 40 hours is a bit unrealistic. A lot of people find, they're burning out and it's a lot to handle. But that 35-hour mark is usually the sweet spot of when people are like staying extremely busy, the paychecks are looking good, and they're happy.
Yeah, 40 is a lot of time on the floor. So yeah, what are like some of the higher end trainers making within your system?
Yeah, so this is, this has changed quite a bit as well. I mean, you go back 22 years ago, I remember making, $17, $18 an hour as a trainer. And that's what, the market would pay trainers. Today, we have to obviously be competitive. So it ranges, typically between, 30 and 40 is typically an hour is the training wage, but it can go up more than that. What we want to do is we want to provide long-term opportunity for people. So whether you want to be a studio manager, we have a franchise solution. So if you want to own your own franchise, you can do that. And our managers, they're making upwards of $100,000 a year. And that is a very good compensation, when you're 28, 29, 30, 32 years old with a kinesiology degree. So it's, we provide that stability and opportunity, let alone all the other things we talked about, adventure travel, benefits, and everything else that really people should be looking at.
I mean, it's more than double what the average group training studio owner makes based off of our data. So, right. $100,000 as a manager of a facility is oftentimes a lot better than owning your own gym, especially since it's risk-free, Yeah,
right.
So interesting. And so, you said you had 6 that are studio owned or corporate owned locations with a few in the pipeline, and then about 10 franchise locations. What does the corporate level staff look like? Because I'd imagine at 23 locations, it's not just you and your office there grinding out. You probably got a little bit of help.
Yeah, you know what? It's pretty lean, actually. So we, 2019, especially with the growth capital that we were securing, it got a little bit expansive. We had in-house marketing. There was 2 people in marketing. There was 2 people in finance. There was, some operational support. We had about 3 people in ops. We had a franchise specific individual that looked at franchise support and expansion. And because of COVID, we had to make cuts, and reshift and reallocate those resources that were more boots on the ground. And a lot of them, kudos to my team, they did that. Like they said, hey, listen, I get it. I'll be boots on the ground and I'm going to go into a studio and really, provide the support necessary. So, for us, the head office is pretty lean. We have, about 5 individuals that span from marketing to finance to ops. And, but that's all that we need, because we have, individual locations are self-sufficient, whether they're a corporately run location or whether they're a franchise run location. Really, at the end of the day, the head office can be quite lean, just overseeing, general ops and opportunities, as well as the marketing initiatives, and then of course finance.
Anything else on the? I feel like people are going to be like, "This is drinking out of a fire hose." We're just going back to back to back. You're bringing the noise. This is great. I want to talk a little bit about some of the lifestyle engineering stuff, and how entrepreneurs and fitness entrepreneurs, especially, can live their best life. But is there anything else on the studio side you think that's interesting and important and worth discussing with our audience?
Well, I think, at the end of the day, we touched on the processes and the systems a little bit. We've systemized the personal service as much as you can. Everything from, how our front desk people pick up the phone, how they interact with the client, everything from the experiences that we create. I think so many times, trainers get into this industry, especially as entrepreneurs, and they think that you have to be the best technical and tactical trainer to be successful in this space. And the reality is that we're dealing with humans, and humans naturally like connection, community, and experiences. And so one of the things that we focus on is actually not about the 20%, it's about the 80%. That's what we call it. So it's not about the physical, it's about the social, spiritual, intellectual, and emotional elements of just humanity and people in general. And so, as an example, when someone walks in the door, everybody yells out their name. So, if there's 15 trainers on the training floor, and John walks in the door, everybody's saying, "Hey, John." That's what we do. And just like Cheers back in the day, for those of you that remember that show, everybody knew Norm's name, and it makes people feel welcome, right? It makes them feel part of a community, and people want to be seen and they want to be heard. Like, that is it, And so we always say that people don't come to work with a personal trainer to achieve weight loss goals. They come there to boost their self-esteem or self-confidence. And now people don't put that on a card. They usually don't talk about that in the consultation process. But let's be honest, someone, doesn't matter if you're a thriving CEO and executive that needs to outsource their health and wellness, they feel inadequate of where they're at. That's why they're going to get a coach, like, period, end of story. Even if it's the last 5 pounds or, bench pressing that much more, the reality is they're not satisfied with where they're at. And that plays into self-confidence and self-esteem. So how do you actually recognize people, meet them where they're at, make sure that they're seen and heard, and ensure that it's not just about, the technical element of the training experience. You can over-index that so much, but for the most part, the general population, people that are 45, 50, 65 years old, whether you're a CEO, executive, or a stay-at-home mom or dad, they just got to move. They got to be encouraged, inspired, held accountable, and they need the coaching to really move on a regular basis, and that alone, when we just implement movement, they're going to achieve, a significant amount of their goals and results just from that. Now, there's a lot of diminishing returns. And if you're a professional athlete, that last 10% makes a big difference. But, for the most part, I think we over-index the training experience and we don't pay attention to the service side of it.
So I'm guessing you're taking a lot of things from the hospitality sector, top tier restaurants, that kind of, like, is that where you go for inspiration?
Yeah. I mean, we've been known like, almost like a Lululemon. I mean, I remember us being featured next to Lululemon 22 years ago, in the front page of one of the local newspapers. And, so we've always been known for that culture side of things and that experience and service side of things. But yeah, I mean, in the hospitality industry, whether it's the Ritz-Carlton, the W Hotel, everything from, even 11 Madison, New York, like from a restaurant perspective, those little touch points make a big difference. And so how can you, do those extra little things that really separate you from the competition?
Yeah, it's one of the things I miss most about living in that New York area. Like the name calling out thing. There's a restaurant there in Aputo called Aputo. When you walk in, it's the same thing. Like, everybody in the restaurant stops, greets you, yells your name, and it's like this cool experience. Like, you just get like these little things that you can steal that, it's tough outside of those like big tier 1 cities. Very curious. You said you structured the way you pick up the phone. By virtue of picking up the phone, you're probably at the tip of the spear for the fitness industry. How do you instruct your staff to pick up the phone?
So just, you want word for word, basically everybody.
Give it to me. I want the script. I want the pitch.
Oh, it's simple. It's, hi, this is Curtis. Welcome to Innovate Fitness. How can I help you? Like it's as simple as that. First off, introducing yourself. Second off, introducing the brand. And third off, how can I help you? Like how can I help you is probably the 4 biggest words that we can provide anybody. And I think that opens up the door for conversation. So, that's typically how everybody answers the phone. If you want to call, any of our facilities, I hope that's how they answer. And yeah, it's as simple as that.
Guys, if you're listening, call one of Curtis's facilities and leave a comment. 1, if they pick up, and 2, if they follow the script. Right. Curtis can check and he'll make sure everybody's in line.
Yeah.
So I want to be respectful of your time here, but I do want to talk about we're on your personal website here. Here on your personal website, your headline is empowering wellness leaders to live their best life, which is great. On the Two Brain front, one of the things that Chris Cooper talks a lot about is, you can make all the money in the world, but if you are working all the time and still a slave to your business, are you really rich? There's 2 elements. You have to have your time and you have to have the income to kind of go forward and pursue interesting endeavors. You're also a family man. You have 2 kids, right?
Yep. Yes,
all right. So I got some businesses. I'm a wellness entrepreneur. I got 2 kids. I got a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old. And to be honest, man, I'm having trouble like balancing it all. It just seems very difficult to keep juggling all these pieces. And I don't think I'm unique in this, right? I think very difficult. And so if you're someone like me who's probably, I feel comfortable in where I'm at business wise, it's just difficult to manage all the other pieces of life along with it. Like what's the secret? How do I have it all?
Yeah, it's. Do you say 2 years and 10 months? Is that what you said?
Yeah, tight turnaround.
Yeah, you're in the thick of things. I have a 9-year-old and 7-year-old, and I'm going to tell you, probably the hardest time that I had was the kids were 3 and 1. From 3 and 1 to 4 to 2 was probably the hardest and most challenging years. You have a little one that's still dependent on you, another one that is still heavily dependent on you, can't tie their own shoes, and wants to go and explore the world. So, I don't envy your position, although it's unbelievable. There's a lot of sleepless nights and you're juggling, quite a few things. For myself, we didn't even talk about our tech business called Workout, but, I manage our innovative fitness business, 23 locations, and at the head at the helm at that business. And then we have a thriving technology business, which, we're working with Chris, and some other platforms like Trainerize and NASM with. And, it's even task switching that is hard. So, when you're focused on a service side of the business and then you have a tech side of the business, and 2 separate businesses, 2 separate operating teams and leadership teams, and then you got to go home and you got to be engaged with a 9 and 7-year-old. And I sit on boards. I coach soccer, my little guy's soccer, and then you got to stay fit and active yourself. So, for me, the discipline of time management is a big thing for me. I've learned that over the last 20 years. I'm intentional with everything I do. There are times where I have 11, 12, 13 meetings in a day. The other day I had 12 meetings before 2:30 in the afternoon. 12. I woke up at 5:30 and I had either half an hour or hour meetings all the way up until 2:30. And then my day started then. So, for me, it's learning how to say no. I only do the things that I need to do. Ryan Holiday said something. I spent time with him not too long ago. And Ryan Holiday said, can you imagine every yes means no and every no means yes? And I said, why don't you expand on that? And he said, every time that you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So if you say yes to something, you're saying no to that hour that you're spending with your kids, that no to going for that run, whatever that is. And if you treated every no to be a yes, every single time you said no, it opened up the opportunity to say yes to something. It really changes your mindset on what you commit to and what you don't. And so, I got a lot from how he framed that. He's a magician with his words. And funny enough, I probably said yes way too many times over my lifetime. But one thing I do really, really, really well is I plan my day very intentional. I control my schedule like you wouldn't believe. And then the last thing is you just have to hire great people. A good friend of mine, Dan Martell, is a great podcast. And, he wrote a book called Buy Back Your Time. And if you're not willing to invest in your team and invest in, having people take things off your plate, you're never going to scale. You're going to be a victim of your own destiny, and you're going to be stuck in the weeds, for the rest of your life. So you have to be willing to outsource things, and you have to be confident enough to hire great people and let them do the work for you.
So you heard it here, guys. Outsource and outsource your kids from age 1 to 4, and life's on easy mode. That is my takeaway from this podcast. That's what I'm going to do. Curtis, this has been awesome. I'm sorry we only scratched the surface. You got other businesses we haven't even talked about. But I think people are going to get a ton of value from this. If people want to find out more about you, where do they find you on the internets?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is just my site that you brought up, CurtisChristopherson.com, has everything about our two businesses, Innovative Fitness and Workout, which is WRKOUT.com. You can contact me, available on email, and then obviously on, social media, you can easily find me as well. With a name like Curtis Christopherson, it's not John Doe. So, you can find me pretty easily.
Yeah, John Franklin. Hard to rank first, man. I'm competing against explorers and pro athletes. It's annoying. Maybe I'll change my name. So you heard it here, guys. This has been a special episode of Gym World Worldwide in collaboration with Two Brain Radio. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on both. And we'll see you next week. Curtis, thanks again, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.